Does it sound fine? Luenda? Luenda? Is the sound okay? Oh. To be they should be answered by someone in her position, but we're not sure if these family members are going to get an opportunity to speak to the president himself as well as the army chief to try and get some of these answers.
Yeah, and here's where it gets particularly interesting, Junior. You've got the president making his way here. We were supposed to see these proceedings kicking off a lot earlier, and of course that's not happening because of that SONA debate and the president responding to the debates in Parliament. And now we were expecting that this program would kick off at 6 o'clock. We are still looking for to see the arrival of the president here at the Air Force Base here in Swartkop, not yet having arrived. Here's the reality of it. Once he does make his arrival and is able to speak to these families, he then does need to rush off to Ethiopia as well. And so what we are expecting is this might very well be quite a speedy event that we see taking place here. But what's quite interesting is as you look on with the preparations and the lining up of military officials, as you're able to see, I suppose, some of them really lining up according to their rank and file. And there's so much to be said about, the pomp and the ceremony. We can certainly talk about how this moment is about the honor of soldiers.
linked with that of the African continent. If we talk about silencing the guns, I mean, certainly those hotspots, whether you're talking about the DRC, Criselda, the very, very volatile situation in Sudan. And we know that at some point, South African troops were in Darfur trying to deal with a very, very horrific situation where the crimes against humanity, the atrocities were committed.
Certainly, Kai, and we're expecting if you've just joined us here on SABC News, we're live from the Swartkops Air Force Base. And this is where the official ceremony will take place, the handover of the remains of these South African soldiers. All right, we're going to bring in now, and I'm going to hand over to Kai Kumale as well as Sophie Mokoena. In fact, I'll ask Sophie Mokoena to come in for us. And this is quite critical, Sophie, if you could just join us here. You've covered this story for many, many years, and I recall it was under your wing that we had also been deployed in 2017 to Goma. And we've had extensive coverage there. The conditions very much have not changed, even way before 2017. Take us back to how we've reached a point where just not South Africa only, but we saw when we spoke to our correspondent in Uganda, in Entebbe, that it was not just the bodies of the 14 South African soldiers, but 2 from Malawi, as well as 2 from Tanzania. So a number of nations are mourning.
You are correct, Criselda. The mission to the DRC has been a long commitment from South Africa. I think South Africans will remember that South Africa hosted the Congolese from different persuasions, and that included countries in the Great Lakes region like Uganda, the Rwanda, Burundi, because the problem here of the DRC, the neighboring countries also get affected, because when there's fighting from these different armed forces, at some point in time, there were 400 armed forces. So they will jump borders to go to neighboring countries. So to resolve the problem of the DRC, you have to bring in also neighboring countries so that there can be an understanding of what's happening. And therefore, after the Congolese dialogue in Sun City, an agreement was signed by President Paul Kagame then and the president of the DRC then, Joseph Kabila, where they agreed on a way forward to ensuring that there's total peace in the DRC. Now, that agreement is gathering dust. That is why we are where we are, because there was no implementation. And when you look at that document, it spells out what needs to be done in terms of integration of the armed forces, building of strong institutions that supports democracy, and also ensuring that you build the economy of the DRC with the help of other countries on the continent with capacity to do that. But also you then have the support of the UN forces to ensure that there's peace. Later on, when there were tensions, this MONUSCO, part of MONUSCO, was given powers to intervene, to fire, not only to stand between the warring factions. And it was called an intervention force. Now, they did manage to repel the M23 rebels. And then there were elections, and I remember the first term of President Tshisekedi. When he was campaigning, he came to South Africa, granted SABC exclusive interview, he committed himself that he was going to, ensure unity. And then later in Rwanda, working side by side with President Paul Kagame at the summit of Africa CEOs, committing to ensuring that DRC is friendly and it lives side by side with the neighboring countries, and there's peace. But later, it was not to be. And the M23 even made an announcement that they support him as the president. But after 18 months, there was no movement to integrate them in these structures, particularly in the armed forces. They retreated to battle. So that's where you saw this problem. Now, unfortunately, I think due to desperation, he then reached out to SADC to send troops. Now, there's an agreement in the region, in the SADC, that when member countries attacked, other countries must help. And that's why they sent the intervention force. On the other hand, you had EAC, because when it was nice, he decided to join EAC, which Kabila didn't like. He was more focused on the SADC. Then it got sour because he felt that EAC forces were real peacekeeping forces. They didn't want to intervene. They wanted to be between the warring factions. So that is why we are here. But talking about Goma, it's a beautiful region, rich in minerals, rich in natural resources, rich in tourism. And it's unfortunate that it's not stable. The project of Inga Dam that can electrify the entire continent can't proceed because of such tensions. And therefore, I think it remains to be seen. This time around, the president has emphasized that all armed forces or stakeholders must sit at the table and discuss, including the Mdntv. So, and remember that document of Sun City had also indicated that the neighboring forces must withdraw. In other words, Rwanda must pull out of the eastern part because they were saying they are protecting their border because the genocidaires have crossed into Congo. So there's a lot of work that has to be done to ensure that you find a solution. But it's sad because the Great Lakes region is the richest region on the continent. It's the richest. The Great Lakes region can feed the entire continent in terms of food, including water, including electricity. But because there's also international interest, they are not at peace.
Do we see the latest meeting of SADC leaders as well as the East Africa community that happened just over the weekend? President Cyril Ramaphosa also being part of that, in the room with the Rwandan President Paul Kagame. For the first time since we saw what had taken place, some spats regarding diplomatic spats, if I can put it that way. Do we see anything emerge, concrete from that, different to what we've heard in the past, that could yield positive results for lasting change in the east of the DRC?
It was unfortunate that there was that public spat from Rwanda, because last year, during the commemoration of the genocide, President Ramaphosa has inherited a frosty relationship between South Africa and Rwanda. But he went there because he wanted also to engage with President Paul Kagame, and the President of South Africa, former Mbeki, also assisted. They met. They had a lengthy meeting before the commemoration of the genocide. And when I spoke to the president after the genocide, before he left for South Africa, he said the engagement were quite fruitful, and perhaps the interview SABC had with Paul Kagame assisted him to prepare. So there was better way of engagement. And there was an understanding that you can only achieve peace in that country through political solution. And of course, political solution demands inclusivity. But here we are, as I pointed out, that attack from the Congo forces directed at Rwanda and the South African base caught in a crossfire, and them having to defend themselves has heightened the tensions. But as I pointed out, you recall we've spoken to the M23. I asked them, why are you attacking South Africa? And they said, that was not our intention. We are not fighting with South Africa. And since then, behind the scenes, there have been talks. That's why you see the remains now. And there's that engagement now. Now, the president saying everybody must be on board. I think even the M23 will even soften its stance more in relation to South Africa. But also President Kagame will chill a bit, because he's pushing that the M23 must be invited. The same with President Museveni of Uganda. But we haven't had President Tshisekedi's side of a story in terms of the call now, President Ramaphosa saying President Tshisekedi must engage M23. But let's hope at the AU tomorrow, when the Peace and Security is meeting in Addis Ababa, the president is flying to Addis later today, we will hear more announcements in terms of way forward to find a solution to this protracted conflict in the DRC.
Well, let's bring it to tonight's official handing over of the remains of these 14 South African soldiers. President Cyril Ramaphosa, I heard in Parliament just before he left to come here, he's certainly not arrived at this particular point, but we do understand that he is en route. Very clear to say a lot has been said in the during the course or after the announcement of the killing of our soldiers. A lot's been said about, and it was clear to say this is nothing but a peace mission in that country.
Yes,
do you make anything of that, given that a lot has been said? I see there are some vehicles behind us. I'm sure our team will be able to show you. We're not quite sure at this particular stage who it is that might be arriving, but a number of dignitaries, some members, of course, of the President's executive are also expected to be here today, and we'll see in just a moment who that is. But Mam Sophie, you were talking to us a bit about the President, of course, indicating we're hoping that our camera would be able to just zoom in just a little bit there so we're able to see exactly who that is. But, all right, Mam Sophie, you were talking about the President's sentiments in Parliament today.
The president sought to set the record straight because there are rumors that there's reinforcement, there's extra deployment. It's not true. I suspect there has been capacity building for evacuation in one of the neighboring countries, because that's what you do, because our soldiers are confined in the base, and now the whole place has been taken over by M23. So there might be a withdrawal or pulling out as soon as countries have agreed on a way forward, and also on issues that are related to peace process.
In fact, Mam Sophie, we'll come back to you in just a second. We do understand from the announcements that are being made now that the chief of the SANDF, Rudzani Mapwanya, has just arrived here at the Air Force base. And of course, he's a pivotal part, as well as I understand some of the ministers as well, who have also arrived at the stage. We're also just trying to...
Yes, this is the leadership of the military, as you can see. And I think very soon we will also see the arrival of the president, because I can see one of the cars with the emblem of the presidency. So the president will soon be joining families, as it had been announced earlier on that on arrival, there where you have families, you have a seat where the president is going to sit next to Minister of Defense.
All right, if you've just joined us, thank you very much indeed, SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena, the top brass of the military arriving, of the SANDF in fact, arriving at the Swartkorps Air Force Base. Those are pictures that we will see in just a moment. We're expecting them. All right.
Defence Force at hangar number 5. Thank you.
Moving from hangar 4. And this, of course, a moment that the loved ones
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the ceremony. The families, members of the MAC, foreign dignitaries, members of the Military Command Council, and Major Generals are reminded of refreshments at Hangar Number 5 and VIP movements. I repeat, the families, members of the MAC, foreign dignitaries, members of the Military Command Council, and Major Generals are reminded of refreshments at Hangar Number 5 and VIP movements. Ladies and gentlemen, the memorial service is scheduled to proceed at 7:30. I repeat, the memorial service is scheduled to commence at 7:30. Thank you.
Let's close the door. Let's close the door.
Start with this one.
Inside one.
Start with this one.
Inside.
Push this one first. Inside one. That one. The second one. This one. The second one. Inside. Second one. There's the hole here. Try to. Yeah. Push that one. That one. Let's go. Push that one.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take note that the memorial service will commence at 7:30. I repeat, the memorial service will commence at 7:30. Thank you.
I need 3 bodies, please, like. 3 bodies, like. Out, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2,
Ladies and gentlemen, a friendly reminder that the memorial service will commence at 7:30. I repeat, the memorial service will commence at 7:30. Thank you.
Please stand back and then la repeat. Let's go. Anjo, stop.